DLC has gotten a lot of bad rap in the past couple of, a decade. Most of it is well-deserved, horse armor. And I'm not talking about Oblivion, no. They did that one as a joke. I mean, horse armor in Metal Gear Solid 5. Literal horse armor that doesn't actually give armor to the horse, it just makes him look different. Many people believe that DLC is what happens when a developer just chops off a part of the game and then makes you pay for it, even though sometimes it's already on the disc. But it's not always this way. Sometimes the DLC is actually good. And these are the top 7 best DLCs ever made. DLCs that not only represent content that's new, not cut from the final game, but also add value to it, probably even more than their meager price. Sometimes. DLC that has, at one time or another, fundamentally changed the game it was made for. DLC that makes you think, hey, you know what? Maybe downloadable content isn't such a bad idea. Before we get started, I have to clarify something. This is just about downloadable content, not expansion packs and not standalone DLC. That's basically a different game. Just DLC. Something that needs the base game to work and isn't necessarily the same size as an actual expansion. That being said, let's start with number 7, the Team Fortress 2 Gold Rush update. I'm classifying this as DLC because that's what it is. It's downloadable content. Content which you can download and play in Team Fortress 2. You did have the option to not download it by buying the game on anything other than PC. I believe the Xbox version did get the update some years later, but the PS3 one didn't because it wasn't made by Valve. This update changed Team Fortress 2. It set it on a new track that just created a brand new game. For better. At first, absolutely for better. This update added more weapons to the game. It gave the medic alternatives to just the Ubercharge and gave it that critical thing, what's his name? That bonesaw and all sorts of other stuff. It added the payload game mode with Gold Rush. Remember the old Gold Rush? We didn't have that cabin next to the last point, so if you were attacking from there, you would just get clobbered by any sentry put in front of it. Remember that? Yeah, those were interesting times. Every other update after this added more weapons for each class, and then, about a year later, the Spy vs. Sniper update came along. Again, a good update, but it also added hats, and that was more or less when Team Fortress 2 started to go downhill, or at least the seed of it going downhill was sown and it bare fruit in 2011 when the game went free and, well, we could have had Team Fortress 3 that was more like Overwatch now from Valve, but they just made hats. Number 6, Bioshock Infinite Burial at Sea. Bioshock Infinite was it had a nice story, like the characters, loved the sounds, and when Elizabeth walks over a surface that's made of wood, lacquered wood, you can actually hear her heels scrape on the floor when she turns. It's amazing. You know what's not amazing? The gameplay. It's borderline awful, boring, it's not good. But Burial at Sea, Episode 2, the one where you play as Elizabeth, is much better because you have a little bit more of the old Bioshock 1 and 2 in it, like the ability to carry more than 2 weapons. I actually think there were several weapons from Bioshock 1 and 2. There were plasmids from there anyway. And although it wasn't set in Columbia like Infinite, Rapture was again a more than adequate setting for this game. Now I haven't actually played it because, again, Infinite was boring as hell in the gameplay department, but people have told me that Burial at Sea, Episode 2 is fantastic. And I believe those people because I myself have been too much of a skinflint to buy the DLC. Number 5, The Witcher Enhanced Editions. These are more or less DLC because, well, that's what they are. They're new content developed for the game to improve it, to build upon it, to enhance it, and it was free. The Witcher 1 had issues when it was released, but they fixed it. They patched it, they made it better, and while that may not have been actual DLC, just patching, The Witcher 2 did receive a lot of DLC, free DLC, and not just cosmetic things, also quests. But more importantly, the entire last chapter of the game was rebuilt as DLC, free DLC for everyone. And now I ask you, what developer actually takes the time to rebuild part of the game a year after release and do it for free? BioWare doesn't, they sure as hell don't. They release paid DLC to fix, in quotation marks, the mistakes they've made in the past. They don't actually fix them, they just make things worse, but they still get a pat on the back. Meanwhile, CD Projekt rebuilt the game, added more content, better content, for free. And that's not the only reason why I put this DLC here. It's because of the Witcher Enhanced Editions that we now have things such as the Divinity Original Sin Enhanced Edition, the Wasteland 2 Director's Cut, just about every other game that was released in a poorish state and then actually fixed by the developer and re-released for free to the people that own the game. Yeah, you may call this patching, but most of these enhanced editions include new content, lots of new content. And the trend started because of The Witcher, because of CD Projekt, and you've got to respect them for that. Number 4, Magicka Vietnam. Now I ask you, if you have a game about wizards and dragons and beholders, I think it was a watcher named Behold, so they wouldn't get sued. If you had that kind of a setting, a fantasy setting about magic and mayhem and swords and sorcery and goblins and orcs and trolls, oh my, what's the first DLC you'll do? Well, yeah, it's gonna be the free DLC where you add a new spell, that crashes the game to desktop because the game didn't buy itself quite too often. But no, the first major DLC, the first major paid DLC for this game was Magicka Vietnam. A campaign set in Vietnam, like actual Vietnam, with napalms and machine guns and POWs and Rambo. Actual Vietnam. Oh sure, there were goblins instead of the Viet Cong, but still, Vietnam. Now you can tell that this game wasn't made by people that had the same thought process as, well, the people that make DLC in general, because otherwise they would have just made a DLC about something more fantastic, which they did later on, but they started with this just insane premise. Let's make a DLC about wizards in Vietnam. Sure, why not? Yeah, okay, and it worked. It was absolutely glorious. Now at the time it may have been a slight joke, a jab at how most first-person shooters have a DLC set in Vietnam, which some of them did at that time, but currently none of them do. They're all set in the modern-ish, future-ish, warfare-ish area of undefined wishy-washy thingamajiggy, and none of them are in Vietnam. But Magicka went there. Magicka was there, man. Magicka was there. Magicka knows that there were vampires in Vietnam and they went blee. Number 3, Crusader Kings 2, The Sunset Invasion. Now I'm gonna give you a spoiler. There are no zombie DLCs in this top 7, because making a zombie DLC, making anything about zombies, is currently the most creatively bankrupt thing you can do. That's why Crusader Kings 2 didn't have zombies but still managed to get the sense of, hey, this is a zombie DLC without the zombies. It added Aztecs. Hundreds of thousands of Aztecs coming from the west, invading Europe and just going to town on medieval society. Now you can imagine that a historical game, a game that really puts a very huge accent on authentic historical recreation, won't be the kind of place where you find yourself fighting about 100,000 Aztecs that are coming to invade Berlin. But that's just what Crusader Kings 2, The Sunset Invasion will let you do. And that's why it shined. Oh sure, it's disableable and in general not that played by people because it messes up with all the other stuff like not being crushed by 100,000 Aztecs when you have levies that are about 300 strong. But still, props for creativity. Props for daring to make this. I actually look forward to the Stellaris DLC with Space Aztecs because it would actually make very much sense. Number 2, the DLC we used to get before we called it DLC. You remember what games used to be like, don't you? They used to get content updates, well maybe not often, but they did. They were substantial and they were free. The different versions of Unreal Tournament got more maps than most of the Call of Duty games put together, and they were free. You had games that got new weapons, you had games that got new campaigns, you had games that got Atomic Editions, you had games that got Final Editions, you had games that got all sorts of stuff that just made them better. It made them more enjoyable, at least it made you enjoy them for longer. And again, a lot of them were for free because at that time, developers had this bizarre idea that since they're selling a game and they're making money off it, they're trying actually to increase the value of that game for the people that have bought it and for the people that may want to buy it, so they'll buy it. And that way, it's not a predatory action to keep pumping out content that should have probably been in the game in the first place to just leech off the people who have bought the game and liked it. This used to be the norm. Getting content for your game, the one which you paid a lot of money for, was a normal thing. But now it's a bit, how shall I put this, horse armor in Metal Gear Solid 5. The ending to Mass Effect 2 sold as DLC. The ending to Prince of Persia, the 2008 game, sold again as DLC, but not for PC. Same goes for Tomb Raider Underworld. Back in the day, stuff like this wouldn't stand. But now it does. Now it does. And number 1, the best DLC ever made is... The rest of the show is available for $4.99. Pre-order this brand new DLC at GameStop now and get a bonus map. Well, no, not a map. You'll get the bonus 5 seconds of video. That 5 seconds being, of course, stuff we cut from the video. Also, we cut this part from the video and are now selling it as DLC. What, you don't like that? You don't like the ending to the video to be DLC? Why not? You pre-order season passes? Why shouldn't you want this? Come on! What's the worst that can happen? It's not like the DLC is actually not what I'm telling you is gonna be. I mean, what are the odds of that happening? Like, what are the odds of me selling you a season pass and then releasing content that year that's not in the season pass? I mean, who do you think I am? Ubisoft? Oh, no, I wouldn't do that. Though we probably should because it sounds like a killer business model. Well, that's it for the top 7 best DLCs of this millennium. I'd also like to give a special mention to the one and only, please insert your credit card now and be charged $1.99 to find out what the special mention is.
If you enjoyed this show, hit the like button, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Or, if you thought it was horrible, then share it with your enemies and make them suffer. We shall be your weapon of vengeance. But if you liked what you saw, you could, I don't know, maybe donate because basically YouTube is horrible at revenue by using the link in the description, or just buy my book. It's a fantasy book about, well, a lot of stuff. I guarantee it won't suck, and if it does suck, you can find me here and complain about it.